his 25th will be here. So we're excited about that. And he's going to talk to you about just incredible knowledge on the nervous system. I'm so excited about this. Both of his parents are chiropractors, so he's second generation, and I think all of his kids are considering chiropractic or on their way. He's got 3 kids, and then they're partners also, so it's pretty exciting. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Dr. Andrew Scott.
I am so excited about today. We set this goal for one purpose, is to empower families to live healthier, right? And I want to introduce you to the best doctor in the world, the one inside you. You carry the most amazing doctor inside you. And I think a lot of us Canadians forget that. And I think about what we just learned. There's so much powerful information that we can take home today. And we look at what Canadians do in the name of health. What do most Canadians use as their benchmark to say whether or not I'm healthy? What do we do as Canadians? We go to a doctor, yeah. But even before that, what do you use every day as our benchmark? Say, yeah, I'm pretty healthy today.
The mirror.
The mirror? I mean, don't we pretty much listen to what our body tells us? Gives us a symptom. We say, okay, if I have a symptom, that means I'm broken. But if I don't have a symptom, the assumption is I'm good to go. Right? And it's a dangerous way to think, because we all know somebody we thought was pretty healthy and then discovered, oh, no, maybe they weren't. Maybe that wasn't the case. And see, what's incredible is research is now showing us that our bodies are moving in one of 2 directions. We're either moving towards better health, or we're moving away from better health. Which direction do we want to go? Toward, absolutely. And see, what's incredible is we want to learn how to empower that doctor inside of you. And you've just learned some incredible principles for how you can go about doing that. And see, your body is healing and repairing millions of cells. But how does it do that? You're creating new heart cells, new lung cells, spleen, kidneys, muscles, bones, skin. All kinds of tissues are repairing themselves. How is that happening? There's one part of your body that controls everything else. Those of you who've been around here for a while know what it is. What is it? Your brain. Your brain, right? So this lump of fat that we all carry up here that Jamie was enlightening us, which was really cool. Was that cool? Like really cool information. Like the human brain is amazing and what it can do. And what the brain is doing is it's adapting us to the world around us. And what's incredible is we're now starting to understand better about how to get our bodies moving into the right direction using our brain, using our nervous system. And so there's 2 sides of our nervous system that I want to share with you today that will hopefully help you in this journey. Okay? So now there's this terms that I'm going to give you. You don't need to necessarily write them down, but I do want you to write down the concepts, because it's really important to understand the difference of these 2 concepts. Okay? So we have one side of our nervous system called our sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic, Jamie used a term that relates to this, and it's called your fight or flight side of your nervous system. And I know nobody in this room has ever lived in that state. Okay, so you got your fight or flight, your stress response. You're chased by a tiger. What do? Right? You run or you fight? No, you run. Right? Your heart races, you're sweating, your breathing is changing, and guess what? You're not healing in that moment. You guys get that? You're not healing while you're running from the tiger. And your brain doesn't necessarily perceive the difference between the tiger in your dream and the real tiger that might have been chasing you. Anybody ever been chased by a tiger? No. Okay, so we've got this one side of our nervous system called the sympathetic nervous system. What all of us in this room are interested in when we talk about the term wellness is we want to know about the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the exciting side of our nervous system, because what it does is it heals, it repairs, it regenerates your body. Okay? So your rest and digest is the often term that's used to describe your parasympathetic nervous system. And see, these 2 sides of your nervous system are constantly in conflict. They never run at the same time. You get that? So if you're running from the tiger, you're not healing. You're not digesting. You're not repairing your body. And so what happens is we should be less than 10% of our lives in the sympathetic side. We should be 90% or more in the parasympathetic side. And so what happens for a lot of us is we allow ourselves to get caught in a rut of sympathetic response to everything. Did you hear what Jamie was talking about with that? Right? We get into fight and flight really easy. And then we wonder why 5 years later we got all this degeneration in our bodies, breakdown in our bodies. We constantly are responding inappropriately to stuff. Like that Tim Hortons story was hilarious, right? People do. And the thing about it is when you look at somebody like that, you know they're living in sympathetic response, right? Their body is in stress response. And see, what we want to do is today we want to empower you to break out of that model of sympathetic response and move into a better healing and repairing response. Anybody interested? Awesome. So now, what we discovered many years ago, and most people don't realize it, is there's 3 things that cause your body to break down through your nervous system. Okay? So every tissue, every cell, every organ of your body is in direct control of your brain. But if you're in a sympathetic response, the communication is breaking down over and over again. So there's 3 things that cause that. The first is what David was just talking about, is an accumulation of toxins. And I want you to write that down. All 3 of these start with the letter T, so it makes it really easy for us to remember, which is cool. I like simple stuff. Anybody else? Keep it simple. Yeah. Okay, so the first T is toxins. So now, where are we accumulating toxins in our body?
Liver.
That I put in my mouth, right? The foods we eat. Is the food we eat today very similar to what Grandma and Grandpa used to eat?
No.
Like, not even close, right? They didn't understand the word organic, right? That was an unheard of concept in our grandparents' generation. They ate organic. That was all they ate. Everything is becoming more and more processed, and more chemicals are added to what we put into our bodies. The things that we choose to drink, well, yeah, they can be either building life in our bodies or being toxic to our bodies. And I'm not saying that as a judgment. We're all coming off the Christmas and New Year's holidays and detoxing ourselves, as January always seems to be a expression. But here's the thing. You accumulate toxins. We need to have ways to change that and repair that. So one of the ways you can eliminate toxins is getting fresh oxygen into your blood. How do you do that? Breathe. Absolutely. But where? Outside. Absolutely. When's the last time you went for a walk in a forest?
Yesterday.
Woo! I love it. She's awesome. So here's the thing. We need to have strategies that can help us to detox those toxins from our bodies. And I'm just giving a little selfless plug. We're having future workshops on this, which is going to be really, really cool. So the first is accumulation of toxins. The second is accumulation of traumas. Traumas is the second T. Anybody ever had a slip on the ice? Fall? Car accident? Fall off your skateboard? Anybody have a sibling? I got 3 older brothers. My middle name is Trauma. You know how I learned how to swim? By my brothers throwing me in the lake. Off the dock. Here you go. Oh, look it. He sinks. That's funny. So here's the thing. We accumulate traumas in our lives, but you know, most people don't realize the very first trauma that a lot of us experience, we don't remember. The biggest trauma that many humans will experience is the birth process. Yeah. Research out of Europe shows that 80% of births in the North American style involves some pulling, twisting of the body of that baby. And see, what's happening is during that birth process, when there's a pulling and a twisting, we can put damage onto the brainstem area of the spinal cord. And what it does is it puts that body into parasympathetic or sympathetic response. Sympathetic response. It puts them into stress. It puts them into distress. And see, the reality is we all have stress, don't we? We all have stress. But it's not stress that actually makes us sick, like people tell us. Oh, stress is the #1 killer. No, it isn't. Actually, it's your response to stress. It's how you respond to stress. It's really the key here. It's all forgiven. Oh, that was awesome. So here's the thing. Over the years, we have had the opportunity to check many, many hundreds of babies. And you know what's interesting? Anybody ever heard of the condition called colic? What is colic? What is that? An infant that won't stop crying, okay? Any parents ever experienced that? You know what it feels like, right? That stress, or what is wrong with my child? And see, what's amazing is over the years, we've seen hundreds of these babies come into the clinic with colic. They just won't stop crying. And you look at mom's eyes and she's like, help me. I love this child. But. They don't say but here's the weird thing. We discovered with these children, every single one of them has the same pattern as an adult with migraines. Anybody in this room ever had a migraine or a brutal headache? Okay? So here's the weird thing. When we look at these little cutie pies, the first bone in their neck has tilted to one side or the other, blocking the nerve supply and blood supply to one side of their head. So now you're 2 months old and you've got a migraine. What are you going to do? Cry. Are you going to be consoled by somebody giving you some milk? Are you going to be consoled by somebody rocking you? Stop that! It's incredible. We just gently guide that bone into its normal position, take that pressure off the brainstem, and the baby stops crying. I've seen it over and over and over again. But here's the weird thing. Who healed that baby? Baby did. I love it. You guys know, right? They carry incredible wisdom inside of them. But the sad reality is if 80% of Canadians are born with some kind of trauma or stress, and then they have falls down the stairs, and then they have weird sleeping positions, and they do all kinds of crazy things, their body is breaking down their nervous system. And the nervous system, it has the texture of jello. Right? So we have these hard bones pressing against those nerves. It breaks down communication, and it robs us of our parasympathetic life and brings us into sympathetic stress. You know, incredibly, the third T I want to share with you today. The third T is sometimes the biggest one and it's the hardest one to identify. I want you guys to think really, really hard about what that third T is. It's a hint. Jamie was talking about it. What's the third T? Anybody? Jamie was talking about it.
Did you not pay attention to me?
No, listen. Okay, Jamie, we're going to start all over again. We're going to start again.
I'm ready.
It's your thoughts. Your thoughts. Your thoughts become your reality. So what you're thinking about, you're bringing about. You know, years ago, I was at an opportunity to meet. My goodness, his name just slipped my mind. But anyway, he taught me a really important lesson. As soon as I say this lesson, you guys have probably heard of it. He said, you know, your innermost dominant thought becomes your outermost tangible reality, and that is a powerful weapon in your health arsenal. Okay? So, what are you thinking about when it comes to your health? Are you believing that there's an amazing doctor inside of you? Or are you living in fear? In dread of, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to make it through this day. I don't think I'm going to make it through next week. You know what? My mom died of this. It's probably going to happen to me. Are you getting into agreement with that? Because that's creating distress. That's putting you into sympathetic response. So, what I love to do, and I've learned this one from my beautiful wife, is I love to read positive quotes, affirmations, verses that just put me into the right state. And so, you come to our house and you open up a kitchen cupboard. On the inside of the kitchen cupboard is a little verse, a little quote, a little something that just, I don't need to worry. It's all taken care of. It's good. And just resetting ourselves like that regularly. Is it enough to just hear it once in the morning and that's the end of it? No. What I often will do, and this is a lesson I learned from my dad, I'll share with you, is he taught me to carry a 3x5 card and just put a little positive verse, positive thought. And in my adjusting area, I have a little positive verse that I just keep reminding myself, it's all good. Everything's taken care of. You don't need to stress. And that brings us into the right state. Okay? So now here's the thing. Inside of you is this incredible doctor. One of the biggest things that causes the breakdown of our nervous system that we see over and over again as chiropractors is posture habits. posture habits are one of the biggest traumas that our body will experience. If we're sitting in front of computers, or we're sitting in front of iPads and phones, looking down at technology, what we tend to do is put crushing pressure on our brain stem, which sends signals to our brain that you are in distress. You know, there's been research that says when someone has a forward head posture, the brain processes that like you're in a stress response. Just that posture alone tells your body something's wrong, something's breaking. Is there necessarily? No. But your body perceives it as such. And so it's important, everybody has to have a regular evaluation of their posture. Have your posture analyzed to make sure that your posture is in proper alignment so that it empowers your body to heal and repair by correcting it. And what's really wild and amazing is research has shown just getting, those of you who are patients here understand what I'm talking about, just getting your spine adjusted, taking that pressure off, brings you into parasympathetic response. Instantly. You get up from the adjustment, you're like, oh, you know what? It's going to be a great day. I see it so often where people come in and you can tell they're in sympathetic state. Sympathetic state. Some of the patients are like, is he talking about me? Is he talking about me? And then they walk out and they're just like, and it's not because of the doctors here. It's because you just moved into the right state of healing. So, remember, you got an amazing doctor inside of you, and get your questions ready because I know this is going to be an awesome panel you guys are going to have some fun with. So I'm going to give the microphone back to Dr. Gasper.